for all of our listeners who don't know Nick has just opened a beautiful brand new gym with his wife named Evexia. And I want to make sure I'm pronouncing that correct as well.
Yep.
Which I believe means wellness in Greek.
Correct.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
Are you guys Greek? Where did the idea from that come?
Great question. So we got engaged in 2018 and we're planning a wedding, which obviously we talked about like stress earlier, kind of a big process, and went to sign a commitment on a venue. And I came home and my wife was like losing it. She's like, I don't want to do this. We had our list that we worked down was 200 people. And then we needed to get down to 150. And you know, the whole stress of like, who do I invite? Who do I not invite? I haven't talked
the worst thing ever.
It's tough, man. And so she was like, I just want to do a destination elopement. And I was like, cool, where you want to go? And she picked Santorini, Greece. And I'm not going to say no to that.
Yeah.
Obviously a really cool opportunity. It was honestly a more affordable experience.
Yeah.
We did the courthouse thing with some close family members in Olathe. And then about a month later, flew out to Athens, went out to Santorini, had our parents with us there for 4 days, did the ceremony out overlooking. If you Google Santorini, just like all the pictures, here's a great picture.
I think about the white, like overlooking the ocean, with super
blue rooftops.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a cool experience, man. So
that's sick.
Really, really cool. And it's funny because like the whole wellness thing starts with the way they live. I don't know if you've spent much time in Europe at all, but even there, the first thing that people told us when we checked in the hotel was like, put your bags down. I know from America, you guys work fast and you're always stressed, but like you're here to relax. So it was like, chill, take a moment, soak it up. Best sunsets I've ever seen. If you check out some of the pictures of Santorini sunsets, man, it's pretty awesome. So
bucket list for sure.
100%. And we stayed out there for like 2 weeks, man. After the wedding, parents left after 4 days. Yeah, there's another good one. But that's probably my favorite picture. The one where we're kind of like, we have arrived. The Briney's are here. You know what I mean?
Hell yeah.
You know what's crazy is when you see those pictures, it looks like there's nobody else there but you guys. Is it low populated area?
No. We just had an awesome photographer, and this was really cool. My wife set all this up, so props to Britni for it. But she looked up a photographer who did destination weddings. We got on a Zoom call with her. We paid for her flights out there and paid for her stay, and she went and did the trip because it was such a good opportunity and experience for free. So she's like, you pay my flight, you pay my stay, you put me up, and we'll do it. And so she was there. She actually paid for her mom to go with her, the photographer did, and they scouted all these spots out. So while we're kicking it, hanging out, she's out scouting out spots that are a little bit less populated. Cool. And really cool visions and views. And
you got some phenomenal photos to help build her business as well.
Yeah, 100%. It was a win-win for everybody.
Very cool, man.
But while we were in Greece, the last stay we did was in Athens. And if you look back at like ancient Greek history around Stoicism, and it's like Pantheon Stadium, the spot here, that's where the original Olympics started. Yeah. Dude, so cool. What an amazing experience. That's a totally marble stadium. So like all made out of marble.
That's so incredible.
Yeah.
How old is that? So is that like
old
BC?
I mean, the first Olympics, Kyle.
That 1800s.
When it was. Luke, look it up.
Yeah, that's a great Google option. And then check out
is it Acropolis?
Acropolis. Yeah, I want to say Metropolis is wrong, but
it's Superman's home.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I'm backwards there. But yeah, man. And Evexia didn't really come to life until a couple years later. During the pandemic, we had 330 BC.
That's old, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
In white marble. So just, 2,000 years ago.
1896. Okay, I was like, they didn't start Olympics until the 1800s.
No, but 144 AD is when that stadium was originally made out of white marble.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise,
cool
it looked like the Acropolis,
Yeah.
But they didn't, no need to rebuild that.
Cool, man.
Unreal.
But yeah, so when we decided to create our own fitness brand, we didn't want it to be like Nick and Britni Fitness.
Totally. Or like 816 Fit. Or
yeah, we one of the ones we came across that we really liked was called Strong RX. We kind of thought that was cool, like your prescription for a stronger life was what we were going to go with. And my mother-in-law over coffee and a cold, or I guess it wouldn't have been in cold. But either way, over coffee, she's like, hey, why don't you guys look at something that's maybe from a different language and stands for the holistic approach that you guys want to take. Britni has a background in nutrition. I have a background in training. both played sports growing up, but we really focus on like how do you live as healthy as you can, while still sustainably enjoying life and not cutting out all those things and being too rigid or strict with it. And so we looked up what does wellness mean in Greek, or how do you say it? And Evexia was born.
This is dude, this is such a cool thing because it's the story that it is to get to this point, to have that conversation, right? To even think like that. Most people are like, saying, I want to open a gym someday, but they have never thought like you're thinking right now of how do I get to a place where now I'm thinking about the name of that gym? Mm-hmm. And, your story started so long ago, right? So you were a walk-on at K-State, correct? Yep. K-State football. You had played JUCO ball before that at Coffeyville.
Yep.
And the thought of most JUCO players is I want to go play D1 somewhere. And that came from a roommate opportunity opening up. Is that how that worked out, if I remember correctly?
Yeah. I
tell that story.
Played sports through high school, played baseball growing up. A little closer. Cool. Played baseball growing up, played football growing up, did track my senior year, and just kind of knew that football was going to be the thing. Wanted to go big early on, but obviously I didn't have that opportunity. I was kind of a late bloomer, a little bit more of a late developer, and got some opportunities to go travel and look at some different JUCO schools. I had some interest from a few D2 schools, but I kind of gave myself this opportunity and had some people in my corner, my father and a handful of others that were like, look, go spend a year or two at a JUCO, get kind of like on track and really train and eat and take this really seriously and see where it goes. And I went and played at Coffeyville my first year, started every game but the first one, had an awesome season, academic all conference, everything went really well. And that spring we had probably 10 D1 scouts. There was a guy on our team named James Carpenter, and he ended up going to play at Alabama and got drafted and played a long career in the league. So we had a ton of really high-level scouts, and it's that old AstroTurf with concrete underneath. It's like you roll it out like carpet.
Straight up carpet.
The worst.
Took a step on that, popped my knee. I broke the bone at the insertion point of the patellar tendon.
Wait, this is at Coffeyville?
Yeah, yeah. Ooh. So it was that first spring after my first fall. And
you're thinking, I'm going to start, this is my year to
prove
myself.
I was a team captain. I was getting looks. Everything was going to be good. This is the year. And that's how it always seems to happen, right? Like the worst injuries happen at the peak times, right? When you're feeling like you're your best.
The expectations were at an all-time high.
Yep. And
so was this in spring ball?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a Friday the 13th, man. I'm not like a superstitious person, but that day I was.
That's right.
And went through surgery, tried to rush back to get back that fall, and ended up having the screw that they put into the knee broke. So I had a second surgery. A lot of people told me like, hey, you should probably consider like hanging it up. That is definitely not my mentality. I'm a go-getter. Always had a chip on my shoulder, and had some different opportunities to walk on at a few different places. And to your point, roommate reaches out to me, or a buddy reached out to me. He's like, hey, we got a room open at K-State. You should walk on here. So I took a run at it, sent them my tape. They said you'd come on board, and fought like hell to stay on board there for 3 years, but got a chance to be a part of some awesome teams. Senior year, we won the Big 12. Got to be around some great people, some great guys. There's a picture. Nick before the bald hair. I had the Bieber look going. But yeah, man, it was a pretty cool opportunity. So
what was the bowl game against that year?
We played Marcus Mariota and the Oregon Ducks at the Fiesta Bowl, and we got smacked.
But a really awesome experience.
But it was a great experience. But we went to the Pinstripe Bowl, the inaugural Pinstripe Bowl at Yankee Stadium my first year there.
That's pretty cool.
How sick.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. We were the last plane to land in a blizzard. So, and the coaches, when you go to a bowl game, they kind of let you loose the first day or two. You get to check out the place. So we stayed at the Sheraton in Times Square in a blizzard. And they're like, buddy up, you have a partner system. Nobody's going to be on the streets, but run free, be back by a certain time, and don't be an idiot. And that was some of the coolest moments of my life, man. So
you guys were idiots.
Yeah, we were idiots. 100% we were idiots. Yeah. We went into,
college football is too confined, and your schedule is too like blocked off. And every minute of every day, it seems like you're doing something in regards to football. So as soon as you get like an open window like that,
dude,
you just
on the road
sprint at it. You're just
in
like,
New York City?
I'm going to be in
Times Square. I mean, of all places, like let's drop 120 guys that don't have any freedom and give them freedom for 6 to 8 hours. And luckily nobody got in any crazy trouble.
You get any pictures of like the naked cowboy? You
No.
know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
Remember that dude?
Dude, he would have had.
At TRL, if we were all the same age range, the guy would just be like with a guitar and like it was just
I know what
wearing
you're
like
talking
spandex.
about now. I don't know that he was out. Yes,
There you go.
I don't know that he would have been out in the middle of a blizzard though. I mean, like that's a
If he was a good naked cowboy, he'd make money that day.
He's gonna get frostbite on his schlong if he does that.
Probably got some good nighttime duration. All right,
Anyways, back to the story. We've gone off track. I'm sorry about that.
No, you're good. And then we went to my second year was the Cotton Bowl. We played Arkansas. We lost all 3 bowl games, which sucked, but the experiences were great, you know?
Well, we talked about like, dude, I mean, it's not what you first expected when you went into college ball by any means, but it built you into the man that you are today. And so what is something that you could say you could probably hold on to from what you learned through all the perseverance through that time and how it's affected you to this point? What's one of the benefits you can think of as far as your character that you found there?
Don't quit. It was definitely not what I expected it to be. You have these dreams of not just going to a school, but to playing, being all conference, being the guy, going out and having the story, being the walk-on that went out and did it, you know? And that was why K-State was appealing. They've had a history of successful walk-ons. And it didn't work out that way. My playing career was nothing like what I envisioned it to be. And it's funny, my dad always told me, like, don't worry, you're going to look back on this. It's going to be the best thing you ever did. And I had a really hard time seeing that at that point in time. So I literally, on this tattoo on my arm, it says persevere. And that was something my dad taught me. And so something that was really big on, you know, like life's going to be hard. You're going to run into some difficult things. And it's not always going to be what you look at. Like the way you look at it is not always going to turn out the way you expect it to. And learning that lesson so early allowed me to kind of understand that difficult times were opportunities. They weren't the end of the world. You know what I mean?
Yeah, most people don't understand that walk-ons, usually you're not making scholarship money until the next year. Mm-hmm. Is that how it happened for you?
I never ended up getting a scholarship.
Yeah.
So I redshirted my first year. I got hurt my second year, and I played sparingly my third year. I got the Bob Cope Memorial Award my senior year, which is a pretty cool opportunity, and it was the hardest working walk-on the team. And
that's what's up.
It was. I never forget one of my coaches, a dude who I never really saw super eye to eye with. That's how it always seems to be in the moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I never forget at the speech, Mitch Holtis actually did the award ceremony for us. It was kind of cool. And I have a picture framed at our house.
The voice of the Chiefs for all of our listeners. Yeah.
That's right. I have a picture of him handing me the award, and that was pretty cool. And that coach said, this is a dude that's going to show up no matter the circumstances every day, do the work. And if you're somebody out there that's looking for an employee, like hire this dude. And hearing that, even though everything didn't go the way that I thought, it just reinforced that whole like message of perseverance where this wasn't what I wanted this to be, but little did I know at that time, that was a catapult to me being able to build the skills, the opportunity to learn how to handle difficult times and create something good at it.
Seeing opportunity in every scenario, whether it be, in the most difficult of times or not getting too ahead of yourself whenever things are going really great.
Yep.
Because you know what it's like for it not to feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to get ahead of our listeners a little bit here because there's a theme in every aspect of what you're talking about. The common denominator is you not quitting, like you said. With that being said, the thing I want to really make a point here is, where is this gas coming from? What is this fuel, dude? Because this fuel is like it burns a little hotter when it's coming from like a dark place. Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, it feels pretty dark to me.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of it is we moved a lot when I was a kid. I didn't have this like poor childhood by any means. My parents were awesome when they split. Everybody was super cool. They did their best to create the best life they could for me, and I'm thankful for every aspect of it. But having to kind of like spend different portions of my childhood, starting in like 6th grade, really reestablishing myself with a new group of friends, moving to a new city, and then doing it again, and not being accepted out of the gate was difficult. And I never really knew that was probably the fuel until I've gotten older and I've had a chance to look back and see it from a perspective that I actually understand. But going through and having to earn my way and just work hard. Like my parents worked a lot when I was younger. We didn't have it bad. We weren't poor, but we certainly were not well off. They worked multiple jobs. They hustled, they grinded. So it's kind of like ingrained, like you just go do what you got to do to make it work. And then seeing them go their separate paths and having to learn how to handle that and build my own opportunity from that. I think that, a lot of times it's another one of those situations where early on in multiple stages of my life, I've just been dealt with things that weren't maybe ideal or what I thought or wanted them to be.
It certainly wasn't what
Yeah.
other kids were dealing with at that time.
No, for sure. And I hate to sit here and I don't talk about that stuff a lot because I'm definitely not like one that falls to the victim mindset. Everybody there's always a worse situation, you know, and I know a lot of people have had a hell of a lot more difficult times than I have, but those things define me, man. And I think that I've always been hungry because I wasn't the one that was gifted all the things that some people are, you know? So I think that it just started early and young, having to deal with adversity, having to deal with situations that weren't maybe what I thought they were, having to recreate myself multiple times and reestablish that I do deserve an opportunity at the table. And I don't know, man, it's just in my DNA.
And we get, and yeah, I just can't give you enough credit for that.
I appreciate that.
And you get to this point where you know, not a made it moment like we talked about earlier, but an aha, like, you know, I've always envisioned myself in this moment, in this point, and you guys just had a badass, you know, grand opening at Evexia, well attended. You know, obviously all points would be to a giant success for you guys, and you're thinking, you know, now what?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you have a feeling of what that is right now?
I think it's continuing to expand just awareness that we exist. You know, I don't think you ever really make it.
I'm with you. Yeah. When's that? What I'm saying is the chip on your shoulder any smaller?
Yeah, because it's not driven by I deserve it. You know what I mean? I think that it came from a place of darkness before where I'm like, I'm going to prove these people wrong. I've had people doubt me my whole life and maybe not like aggressively beat me down, but you can feel it.
It's subtle. Oh yeah.
You can feel
always
it.
Passive.
You know, when you're in a position where you think you have this opportunity, you should be able to deserve this or whatever it might be. Right. But I think for so many years, it was like, I deserve that opportunity. I'm going to go prove you wrong. And I'm at that point now to that made it moment. And we've kind of gotten over the hump in a lot of ways where I do a lot of like listening to other podcasts and finding ways to be able to improve myself and my mindset. And I don't think that my success is going to continue to come from a place of driving out of negative aggression to prove people wrong. I think it's at this point, like you've done a lot of things, man. Step back, look at all the things that you've accomplished. Now go out and do it bigger and better. And you don't have to do it from a place of negative fuel or fire. It can come from a place of love and support and community. And that's what we've really tried to cultivate, is creating that space where people can come in together and find like-minded individuals and grow physically, mentally, emotionally, professionally, and just continue to level up and enjoy it. And having kids probably did that for me too, man. Like my dad passed away when I was 28, so in like 2019, and that'll open your eyes. It was unexpected. And then when I had a kid, we had our first kid in 2021, our first son. It was just, it was kind of a full circle moment, man. It gave me a chance to go back and tap into like, what is the meaning of life? You know, I'm not going to dive in too deep on some of these things, right? But it's like, what am I here for? I'm not here to prove people wrong. I'm here to enjoy the moments that I have on earth. And that shook me and was like, you're not guaranteed tomorrow, man. So don't run around pissed off that you had all these people doubt you. Like, just embrace where you're at and go out and do more and do it from a place of love and support and opportunity. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Kyle and I were lucky enough from a very young age to be surrounded by people that really valued personal growth. Mm-hmm. It's something we really, found purpose in and really helped with those tough times, along the way. Once you get through the playing career and you don't have that culture around you anymore, how did you find personal development on your own organically? And how are you mixing that in with your team today? That's
a great question. Let's see. When you're in a sports team setting, it's handed to you. It's forced down your throat. Like, it's not a question. It's an expectation. Like, you get better or you get worse. Which one are you going to choose? And they didn't let you choose. It's like, if you're going to be around, you're going to get better.
If you're on this team, you have to be in alignment with everybody else's.
100%. Mm-hmm. And when you get out of that, I think the first thing I craved when I was done with football, so I stopped. My last season would have been in the fall of 2012. Stuck around at K-State, worked at the rec. Spent a semester being a college student and not a student athlete. And I think on like 9 credit hours worked at the rec. It was the chillest moment of my life. And it gave me a chance to be able to start to look at like, what do I really want to do next? Moved to Kansas City, started a big box gym. I worked at Lifetime Fitness. And the thing that drew me to that, it was like the biggest and the best, right? Kind of like that same thing of like, I could have gone to lower
expectations
or a lower expectation place, mm-hmm. right? But I saw that it was like big and shiny and opportunistic. And I was like, cool, this is the same thing, same opportunity again.
It'd be difficult to be the best at this.
100%. Let me get in and see, let's test where I stand. And I got there, and a lot of the lessons that I learned as a college athlete allowed me to excel without really having to do anything outside of what my normal expectation had been at that point. We talked about this earlier, where you're like,
high personal standard.
yeah, dude, you get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, you go work out, you go to class, you come home and sleep for 30 minutes, you eat, you go watch film, you go to practice, you go eat, and then you go to study hall, and then you go to sleep, and you do it again the next day. And you do that for 5 years. It changes who you are.
Almost any working environment that you go into after that seems like less work.
That's the thing, man. So it's like you go in and do the bare minimum standard, and you're celebrated for it.
Yeah.
And I think that's where having success early in my career, I got a chance to be in a leadership role when I was 24. And I'll never forget, I remember a lot of situations early on in my leadership moments in the workforce where trying to help people who were old enough to be my parents, kind of like, for lack of a better term, get their shit together.
Is that when you stepped into that role, was that the hardest thing to overcome? Like at first, was the age gap that you were like encountering?
Yeah. I mean, I vividly remember one conversation with a guy that was in his 40s, and he was yacked. He's a good dude. We became great friends, but we're sitting in like a one-on-one meeting or a development session, and you just see the look on someone's face when this dude's old enough to be my dad. And he's like, why should I listen to you? And my answer at that moment was like, well, my name tag says manager and yours says trainer. Mm-hmm. So like, that's why.
Did you say to him that straight face?
Yeah. Hell yeah, I did. And he's like, all right, whatever, man. and we became good friends after that because I wasn't afraid of him. You know what I mean? And I think
you weren't sugarcoating shit.
Yeah, man. Like I've always been a pretty direct person. But
not disrespectful.
Yeah, the goal wasn't to be a dick. It was just to be like, I'm not scared of you. In college, I played linebacker, and I played on special teams a lot. And you run into people really hard and fast without fear. And I took that same mindset to working, obviously less physical. And so it became pretty easy to step into an environment and not be afraid because I'd done things that I felt like were physically more scary before. When you're 220 running into a dude that's 300 pounds on a daily basis, it's like, all right, well, that'll carve your mindset a little bit. And then I also give credit to, we didn't talk about this much earlier. I did judo and jiu-jitsu. I had a trainer that got me into martial arts when I was 23. So shortly after I finished playing football, and there's a tournament locally, a judo tournament. Yeah. So doing that, put me around that same group of people, but it helped me tame the aggressiveness, right? With martial arts, one of the things about it is like you learn how to be Steve Scott, super good dude. The other dude, Derek Darling, welcome at martial arts. Shout out to them. Just overall great people. Give them a lot of props. They were a group of strong men that helped develop me mentally early in my 20s. Just being around other dudes that can like keep their act together, you know? And, but when you go learn those things, you learn how to be physically dangerous, but you learn how to not use it. And you learn not to judge people because I got my ass kicked by some dudes that were a quarter of my size too, you know? So I think that altogether I'm getting off track for where we were going there.
I mean,
but
it brought
you
some humility, but it also taught you, it just taught you how to persevere in those kind of situations.
For sure.
Gave you the right mindset.
So it's, a lot of times when people get out of playing like college sports, they basically have a problem with being almost like addicted to competing, or not a problem, but it can be looked at as a positive. You
need an outlet of some sort.
Yeah, an outlet of some sort. Is judo and jiu-jitsu the primary outlet that you had, or what all did you compete at? When you got done with college football.
That was the big one.
Yeah,
that got me into like being able to compete physically in a more power-based sport. I was never great at like basketball because I was just too aggressive, and which is funny because that was not my default. It took me learning that when I was younger. I remember my dad putting me in wrestling when I was young and like screaming because I was like, pin me, like whatever, dude.
Yeah,
just being too passive.
Yeah, I didn't care. I was too nice. And then like somewhere around the time you hit puberty, you start to have a little more testosterone and you see it and it starts to click. And then it's hard to turn it off. And I think that was the thing that got me into like judo and jiu-jitsu. I give credit to that. It helped me learn how to control that emotional state that you talked about a little bit more and be able to understand how to tap into it and shut it off, And so being able to compete with that was cool, but it's not like, I don't know, it wasn't sustainable for me long-term. I got busy and then I went sparingly and then I started getting hurt. And really like that's been the evolution of my fitness journey is, I had knee injuries and other injuries that stem from that in college football, and then got into weightlifting, bodybuilding. I did my USAW cert, so did some Olympic weightlifting and thought I wanted to compete in that for a bit. Never actually competed, but competed with all the other dudes at the gym. Just who can clean and jerk the most.
Let's hear your clean and jerk for all the meatheads that are listening to this.
Today or at my peak?
At the peak, dude.
At the peak was probably around 315.
That's pretty good.
Snatch would have been like probably around like 225, I think is the most I ever did.
Nice.
Let's see it, Luke.
It's a big squatter. This was technique work. There we go. These are old videos, man. It's crazy to look back at this. I haven't scrolled back through for a minute. Yep. Peak squat would have been around like 480 when I was at K-State. Bench 330. I'm not touching any of that right now, though.
Oh, bro, you're from the squatting capital, where the best squat of all time happened. K-State.
Darren Sproles.
Darren
Yeah,
Sproles.
man. Yeah.
What was 1,000 pounds? Or
That dude had so
5'6".
many of the records on the record board in the weight room, man.
He was like 600 plus. He was not 1,000.
No, but it was like a Hatfield squat. He
was
did
600
something
plus at like
ridiculous.
They had a
180
sled
pounds.
drive in there. 836. Dude, that is insane.
My safe squat. There you go.
My cousin played football with him at Olathe North. Just
Bro, 320
freak.
pound hang clean.
yeah, and he's not a big dude, right? Like
5'6".
yeah,
You know, but also like 180 pounds. Like not,
straight muscle.
I mean, hamster.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
not a dude you want to tackle.
Muscle hamster.
No. Was the weightlifting program at K? I mean, this is getting off subject. Is the weightlifting program at K-State pretty intense?
The training program there was intense,
Yeah.
and you know, I think I know a lot has evolved since then. So it's hard to sit back and nitpick what was right and wrong from then, especially with my perspective. I've been in the training industry for 12, 13 years now. So it's like, of course, I'm going to sit back and look at something a decade plus ago, 15 years ago, and be able to like pick out the things that sucked. The training program there was designed as much for mental toughness as it was for physical. And that's college football for you, man. Like,
I believe that.
Can you survive? And if you can survive, you're going to be a freak.
How did that compare to the strength program that you had at Coffeyville?
Coffeyville, funny story. So my first summer there, it would have been June of 2008. We had 170 dudes show up, and there were 55 left that fall.
Yikes.
Classic.
Run them out, man.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yep. And then at K-State, it wasn't quite as much like
If you're there,
step up or step out, because there was a little bit more of a filter to get people in the door.
Right.
But even then, it was still very much built on mental toughness, you know. And I struggled a lot with injuries. Like looking back on my professional expertise now, is very quad dominant. Didn't have a lot of like glute and hamstring development, which if you know much about like sports performance, obviously that's key, especially for, you know, balancing your joints and being having speed and being able to be explosive, but also being resilient, right? Didn't do some of the like technical things that I probably could have done then, but I used to, the younger version of myself would have been like, somebody didn't teach me that.
Yeah.
Right.
And now I'm like, no, don't blame it on anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't them. That was the time, and it was the place, and it was the circumstance, but it's not someone's fault. And I think that's where that like chip on my shoulder came from. I was like, somebody owed me this and I missed it. And what's up with that? You know what I mean? But I've gotten a little older and a little more wise, and I certainly have a long ways to go, but definitely feel like that's been a big lesson. It's like, nobody owes me shit, man. Like you have to go out and earn it. And I could look back and blame it on everyone else or other people, but what's that going to do for me?
Right.
College football
man.
is littered with those people, though. You know what I'm saying? Like,
It's a matter of like, it's not a matter of if. I feel like it's a matter of when. For most athletes, post is just at what time does their ego finally drop enough to where they recognize they're the common denominator in their problems.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like there's also the guys that are 40 plus getting hammered on a Tuesday at the bar stool, saying how much, you know, they shoulda, coulda, woulda, you know, and back in their day and stuff. And it's like, at what point are they going to learn, you know? But it sounds like whenever you mentioned, you know, your injuries and so forth, it's like, how long did you stay in the dark? Like, how long were you, you know, feeling sorry for yourself before you decided I'm going to do something about this? It didn't seem like it was very long.
Yeah.
Not long at all, honestly. The rehab processes were defining moments in my life. You know how you look back at defining moments that you have, and you can literally image like specific days and times. And there's a day after the first knee surgery that I had where I was at my high school field. I was running sprints. It's hot as shit outside, and I had like accomplished a milestone in my recovery or rehab process. And it's like those little moments where you're like, I'm doing it, man. Like, I'm not going to let this beat me down. I'm not going to let that push me back. I'm going to make it, and I'm going to go to the next step. And then inevitably get punched in the gut again another time. But it just goes back to like the mentality of like, you gotta grind through it. Cause there's two choices. I can either roll over and complain about it and I can be a victim, or I can step up and look at it as an opportunity. And I think that I've always kind of felt that way, but I've had other moments too. There's a book called The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. I don't know if you know that book.
I almost said that to you earlier because of what you were talking about. And I was
Defining book in my life, dude.
Yeah.
I read that years and
author.
years ago, and I love a lot of his stuff. The Daily Stoic stuff, I'm all about it. And that book is a mindset for me, man. Like, and you know, we'll probably talk about it at some, but just some of the hurdles that I faced, not just as an athlete, but personally in business. That book has always been like on the top of the hardest climb is the best view. So
I mean,
an
that's
opportunity
for that book, you know, as far as like our business goes, we do so many things that like people ask us why we do it. You know, oh, why don't you guys sell online? Why do you guys send out thank you cards? Why do you guys, you know, do, you know, follow-ups that aren't automated, like a million different things. And it's like, because, you know, the personal connection that you get with somebody is so much more valuable than, you know, basically automating everything, you know, to where there's no human touch to it. But
if the thought was to how to make the most money, maybe we would think like that. But if our thought process is how to build the most loyal community.
Yep. I've made that mistake too, though, where you try to lean in and use the automations as leverage. We've done that a couple times in our business where, like, in our client accountability app, where we're like, hey, let's automate some things to stimulate conversation with people. And even then it never worked out, because it's like, is this robo Nick talking to me, or is this real Nick talking to me? And then one automation would go out wrong and you're like, shit, man, like,
I think
they
there's
know my secret.
Yeah, there's
Becomes
opportunities
disingenuous
to,
immediately.
For sure.
There's opportunities to automate some things that don't need it, but like, you know, when it comes to like, you know, interaction with the customer, it's like, I just don't know if automation for a lot of like relation-based companies is a good idea.
If the client relationship is at the forefront of the business model, then obviously that needs to be genuine.
Yep. Yeah, we've reeled back most of our automations in our business just because of that, especially in the client side of it. I mean, on the front end where you've got people coming to the door and they're interested in what you do, like having the first message or something like that is one thing, but we found that it's better off for us to schedule the time to go through and intentionally send a like personally crafted message to someone like, hey Jeff, I saw you missed last week. What's going on, man? Has it been a hard time for you to get in the gym? What's going on? You know, versus it being like, I see you only made it in once last week. You know, those are very different experiences.
Yeah. You spell it like that's always a dead giveaway, is like, my name's Jeff, obviously, but my full name is Jeffrey. And if someone sends me Jeffrey, it's like, oh, you guys, I filled out a form and I used my full name and now I'm inserted here.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's like a dead giveaway.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, Nicholas is the full name for me. So if anyone calls me Nicholas, I'm like, you're not my mother and I'm not in trouble. So
that person's not real. Like, this is for sure automated.
Sure.
So, you know, I feel like we're bouncing around, which is fine. I just, you know, Evexia seems to be, you know, what's just getting started for most people, you know, that are hearing this. This will be their first time hearing about you, but this has been such a work in progress for you guys. And I want to give a lot of credit to your wife as well, because you have in our conversations, and we haven't talked about her much, but you guys have such a background of a crazy vast variety of different levels of fitness.
I say you complement each other really well in
for
knowledge,
sure.
you know, and what you guys do.
And so to be clear, when you describe Evexia to us, it's full spectrum on fitness, as far as like, there's just, you guys are covering every end of the spectrum for people. Let's say somebody has a background in going to a box gym, maybe never been personal training and so forth. How would you guide them if I walked into Evexia? What facet, you know, what tool at Evexia would I be using if I was somebody who has some experience with lifting weights, but it's more of just on my own, learning on my own, and it can feel a little intimidating?
That's a great question. And that's really who we serve best, is not necessarily, we'll work with the beginner and the most advanced people. The people that work best with us, or we work best with, they've had their foot in the door and they just haven't found a way to make it sustainable. Maybe it is a little intimidating. Maybe they don't know what to do. Maybe they don't want to think. They got too much stuff going on in their life where it's like, I want to put this decision fatigue to the side and trust somebody that's a professional. And you talk about like my wife's background, like she comes from a degree in nutrition dietetics. She played college volleyball. She's done the athlete thing. She did bikini shows. She's done powerlifting, into Pilates and just functional strength training now. And a lot of her background and mine was dabbling around all those different things. So I think we can relate with a lot of people because we have tried so much in fitness. And so it's like, hey, I've gone to the gym and done whatever it might be. And it's like, oh yeah, I've done that before too. Well, tell me a little bit about how that's going for you. So everybody starts with a strategy session. It's something we offer for free. We want to make sure it's a good fit for someone. I've been a part of gyms where you have the high pressure sales environment, and that definitely is not the experience we want to provide. And I've probably been that guy at some point in my career too. I'm not afraid to say that. But we're at a point now where we want to meet people where they're at, and we want to figure out what that looks like and individualize that for you. So the solutions that we provide, there's a variety of different directions we can take it. But at the key of what we do, it's who are you? We look at you as a human. We find out where you're at. What do you really want and need? And how do we create as much of an individualized process holistically to make you feel like you're well-rounded in all things that are wellness? And that's your fitness, that's your nutrition, that's your hydration, your alcohol intake, your sleep, your stress management. And I know we're not in like mental health or any type of like therapy, but we end up being that way a little bit at times too. I think most personal trainers can relate with that. So the goal is to like just help figure out where people are at and not give them cookie cutter solutions, and make sure we're addressing the things outside the gym, because you can come in and work out 3 days a week, but if you aren't doing what you need to outside of the gym, I always talk about the 168 hour rule. You've probably heard that before. Like 168 hours in a week, and if I see you for 3 of them, I better be damn good at influencing the rest of them, or you're not going to get any results.
We deal with the same thing. You know, people come in the store and they're buying a supplement with some kind of expectation, and it's like you have all the work to do when you go home. The gym, what you're eating, it's and you have to influence, you have to basically motivate people and be inspiring to them in a short amount of time. You know, as trainers, you guys have a bigger impact on, the amount of time that you're spending with people. But yeah, that's so true. It's like the biggest hurdle to overcome for a trainer. Yeah.
I want to talk about a difficult time in this, this whole journey that you've been on so far, Nick, and that is you're at Lifetime. You've kind of crested the mountaintop there as far as building your way up through that corporate ladder, and COVID comes around. They start furloughing people. They start laying people off. They invite you back. You come back for a day, and you don't really have a plan. You just know that this isn't what it is, and you decide to leave after one day of being back at Lifetime, which was not a, in quotes, cush job by any means. But it was obviously a difficult job, but it paid extremely well. It gave you the security that most people are looking for. How did that decision get made for you?
A lot of time at home in between when they shut the gyms down and they open them back up. And I think so many people can relate with the pandemic being a really difficult moment in their life to reassess and reevaluate, because we had a lot of time with ourselves. In our society, it's easy to get busy and go through the motions and check the boxes and wake up and go to work and do this and go out on the weekend and come back and do this and get lost in the monotony of the routine. And you don't have that for 6 weeks. It makes you think, especially all the development that I'd tried to do up to that point was to work my way into those positions. And so I'm sitting there thinking, like, is this the pinnacle for me? Like, what's next? And had some influence in my life. My father-in-law was in my ear a little bit. He's been a business owner through a lot of his life and had a similar story in a completely different line of work. And we didn't have any kids at that point in time. So if there's ever a time to take a risk, that felt like it was it, and there's all kinds of different financial relief programs and things like that during the pandemic. And we just kind of decided, like, I'm going to go with my gut on this one and just see what happens. And we didn't really know what we wanted to do, but we were far enough into our relationship. My wife and I, we'd been married for a year at that point, or 6 months, honestly. And knew that there was always this opportunity for us to kind of do something together, and had thought about it, but she was still in a role at a nutrition program and was kind of running that at a private practice. And we're like, you stay there for some stability for a little bit, because we're leaving a lot of it, and let's just see what happens. So I think it's one of those things where you have enough time to sit back and think, and all of a sudden you just like, you got to go with your gut, It didn't feel right. And I kind of looked at like, well, worst case scenario, I come back, I have opportunities to, if I can get that place at that point in time where I had a high paying job, not cush, but you get the point, right? Mm-hmm. Then I can probably go find another thing if this doesn't work out. And I had a leader there. His name is Andre Day. Shout out to him. He's still a GM at Lifetime. And he had told me a couple times he had said something along the lines of like, when you do get an opportunity, do it the way that feels best for you, because then you don't look back and think about what if, right? Like, and you hear people talk about that a lot, but I didn't want to have the regrets of not doing things my own way and giving it a shot. and pulled the trigger.
Definitely a scary moment when you sign that lease. How big is you guys' space?
Yeah, we signed the lease at the space we're at now, but it's probably about 5,500 square feet. But then there was the space before the space, and then the space before the space, and then the garage before the space. So, you know what I mean? Like it's been a crazy journey.
And then just as a quick note, the city of Olathe telling you that, hey, where your gym is now that you've worked so hard to open, we're gonna need you to up and move that.
Yeah.
What was that whole process like?
It was wild, and you know how like
you guys, there's so much of a ramp up to this. Like you guys just got open, right?
Yeah, right. So, quick timeline. I leave in 2020. I spent about a year just kind of like training out of our garage. We flipped our garage from junky old like garage to nice little home gym. And then from that point, I had started leasing space out of a shared facility when we had our first son, and spent about a year and a half there. While we were there, we decided we wanted to scale our business. I was training about 15 one-on-one clients, doing some consulting. My wife had left her job and started doing some more nutrition and kind of tacking on the more holistic approach to what we did. We have an app for clients to keep them accountable and staying connected outside of sessions. So she was running nutrition sessions, giving them lifestyle coaching, being that kind of like available support for them and helping with some of the marketing on the back end. And then sign our first lease in Olathe in January of 2023, open it up, kicked ass for about a year, and then spent last year kind of stepping back and evaluating the way we wanted to do things. Had to shuffle around just the way we approached our business. We grew so fast that we could not keep up with sustaining the people. So we had a retention problem for a bit because we just outgrew our capacity. And then about the time that we started getting a grasp on that, we found out in June of 2023, like, hey, you guys have to move your business. We're going to acquire this space. And it's much needed for the city of Olathe, but damn, it was not something we expected. So first thought was, oh shit, what are we going to do? And all the different things flood your mind, right? Do I shut down? Do we minimize our business? Where do you go next? It was hard to find this space. How do we find another space?
You don't really get, and to be fair, like this is one of the most, I don't know, we haven't really discussed this aspect of it is, but a certain part of you getting a business open, there's always questions. There's always, should I have done it this way or that way? And you really didn't get enough runway time to really figure out what was working and what wasn't.
Yep.
So when you have to remake the same decisions, you don't really know which decisions to make or redo or re-challenge yourself with, because you're like, well, I wish I had more time to figure out if that was the right way to go.
Yep. And it's right about the time that we figured out we needed to go a little bit different direction that we found out we didn't need to move. So just the convenience of it wasn't ideal, but I mean, that's life, right? Like about the time that things are rolling well, just like in the injury in football, like things are looking good. We're about to change this. I'm about to take off. Everything's going to be good. And then bam, you get hit with something unexpected, and that adversity challenges you to think and do things a little bit differently. And so we hired an attorney to kind of get our ducks in a row because it was a very unfamiliar situation. Luckily, the compliance standards that are required for that type of situation were in our favor. They didn't benefit the city. They didn't benefit us. It just is like, this is how it has to be done. And so I think the biggest lesson I've taken away from this is the value of having a team of people. And I'm not just talking about the immediate team we have. We have an awesome team of coaches. We would not be anywhere near where we are now without them. But we also wouldn't be where we're at without the contractors, without the real estate support, without the
lawyers,
without, I mean, like all these different things, right? And so just having those connections and then being able to source our network for people to help us through that. I mean, one of our trainers, his sister and her husband helped us do like the artwork in our space for the mural. And so like just all the little things, I mean, it's being resourceful. And I think that was what got us through it, was being like, all right, here's another challenge, and take it head on.
What advice would you give to somebody who is trying to break into the fitness space and try to make that their full-time career? There's many that have it as a job, but they're just stuck in the, what do I do to go from here to there? What kind of advice would you give that person?
Pay your dues. I think it's easy to get a certification now in so many different ways. I think you can even do a certification of personal training or I think NSM has it to where it's like you have two routes. I can get certified in personal training, or I can get a certificate of personal training. And those are two different things. So I can go do a weekend course and get a certificate in personal training, or I can actually go take the proctor's exam and do that. But even then, like, you got to apply the skills. So when I say pay your dues, it's not like do all the hard shit. It's like go help people, and you might have to do it for free for a bit, and go out and change people's lives and build value in what you do, and don't do it for the money because it certainly is not going to be there right away, and have a passion for it. And I think the thing that I see so much is people get into the industry for the wrong reasons. Just because you like to work out doesn't mean that you will like helping people, because yes, it is a lot of fitness, but it's a lot of human interaction, and you're working with people who are struggling. Like people come see a personal trainer on rare occasion when they want to go from good to great, but most people are in a tough spot, and they've been in a place where they're not happy with the way they look, they're not happy with the way they perform, they're not happy with all these things. So you got to be strong-willed, you got to be motivating, you got to be somebody who's willing to go out and give your all for people. So I'd say like go out and pay your dues, give people an opportunity to see what value you bring to their lives, and when you can go out and you can impact somebody and you can make their life better by giving them the fitness to play with their kids, to go hiking and skiing till they're 80, whatever it might be. When you can give that to somebody, you're giving them hope for a better life. And a lot of people run around with the fear of like, if I don't address this, what's going to come? Am I going to die or have a family history of this, So give people hope, give them opportunity, show them that you can do something good for them. And organically, I feel like it'll come back to you.
Yeah, the pay your dues part is lacking in the fitness industry. A lot of people, they do something for a very short amount of time, and then all of a sudden they're a, online fitness coach.
To be fair, it's baked into the fitness industry, right? It's the same thing as giving the results to the customer that fast, right? It's like, hey, I got these results in 30 days, and same things can happen for somebody who wants to personal train. It's like, man, I knew this personal trainer who was doing a bunch of online, lead action, and they were getting, 100 leads a day, and they were writing, AI diets and blah, 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 blah. And now they're making all this money, and they think that can be them as well. And, the truth of the matter is, it's just, it takes what it takes. And, you're always either going to whine and bitch about how it's not working out for you in the same time frame as somebody else, or you're just recognizing that it takes what it takes, and you just got to keep going.
For sure. And I hate to knock on anything that's going to get people moving. I had somebody give me this thought process a couple of years ago when we first started scaling our business. And the thought process of you're competing with other fitness businesses as a fitness person it's more rare than you think. Because the reality, if you look at the stats, most people aren't doing it. Most people are sitting at home on their couch, wishing and wanting.
True.
And so many fitness professionals, I've worked in environments where people get catty about one thing or another. And it's that like scarcity mindset. There's an abundance of people who need help. So if I do the same thing that you do, we're probably going to do it different. And Susan and Jim may like it the way you do it, and Sally and Joe might like it the way I do it. But at the end of the day, like we need to help people that are sitting on the couch and that aren't doing it collectively as an industry. And that's the thing that I think you talk about, like what fuels you now. That's where my head's at. It's like there are a lot of people that just need help. I don't care who does it. Of course, we want to be the ones that do it. So we're trying to make what we have a valuable offer and opportunity for people so that it does attract more people. And of course, I'm going to be competitive in our industry, and that's the goal. But people need it more from getting off the couch than they do leaving one gym and going to the next. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And so I think it's like, it's easy to sit and knock on some of the things. Like I'm typing up and doing an AI diet, and it's like, damn, that probably isn't the best person or the best thing for someone, because we talked earlier about like the personalization behind it, which is what we really strive for. But it's also like, at least these people are moving. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I think it's like pay your dues and do whatever works for you. And it's going to be easy to get caught up comparing, especially with social media in today's day and age. Fitness and social media, man, it's toxic.
Mm-hmm. If you were talking about it
can be wonderful and it can be terrible at the same time. You just got to keep a level head throughout the whole process.
It is crazy how people are, use they'll pick out the minutia of, a certain topic, and they'll drive a wedge through it to try and make them seem more knowledgeable or more, better in some different ways.
Drive more engagement. Say something polarizing.
And I love him, but I think Lane Norton basically started that trend.
Yeah, and he's an expert at it, man.
He's really good at it. And I've followed Lane Norton since the bodybuilding.com
days. He made a post that was like, don't squat.
Yeah.
Well, people are going to want to read that.
Yeah. and it's like,
but you're going back to what you were saying. It's not getting more people off the couch. It's actually making it seem more elitist and making people that are on the couch feel like, do I want to
waste my time doing that?
Yeah. Well, you see all these memes now. Like one of my favorite trends of social media posts is like somebody filming themselves and they're like doing the quick highlights of like what does good nutrition look like in 2025? And like, you'll have a
Some
plate full of
million
eggs
things.
and they're like, no, eggs will cause cancer. And it's like, oh, well, I put cereal in there. It's like red dye 40, and it's like, well, I'm going to eat some steak, and like, nope, plant-based only. So it's just crazy because it is so
That's the most true
thing.
yeah.
But I think it's too, like, as much as there is bad out there, we go back to like consumption. This is a big part of some things that we're leaning into coaching a little bit more, but what you consume, not just what you eat, is wildly important for your health, especially your mental health. And curating who you follow and the things that influence you, it's difficult to do if you don't have a frame or a filter to put that through, right? And that's what we're trying to do, is like change the filter so that it is like, there is no thing that is inherently good or bad. There are things that make more sense or less sense for certain people.
Mm-hmm.
So
Good
like,
and bad is obviously relative words,
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, for one person, like, go eat Chick-fil-A. I'm cool with that. Just don't make that every meal that you eat every day of the week. But if you have it a couple times a week, like, it's not the end of the world. Like, enjoy it, live it up, and don't feel guilty about it. But like, also on the other end of things, like 80% of the time, do the right things. And the right things are cooking at home and, making your own meals, or going to a place that does meal prep for you, or whatever it might be, you know?
Meeting people where they're at.
That's it.
That's what you're saying.
Yep. 100%. Because part of the reason people are still on the couch is because of the overwhelm, right? We talk about how many different things are out there. If you're in a position where you see all these different things, how do you know who to trust?
Yeah.
And if you don't know who to trust, you're not going to reach out for help. So you got to find something that seems genuine and organic. And that's the toughest part, I think, about our industry collectively, is getting those people that are inactive. You have to have something like a 30-day challenge or a 6-week challenge. So we've done those before, and we've gone on every end of the spectrum. We swung real hard on 6-week challenges when we first started, and it scaled us quick. And then we went real hard the other direction, like, well, not doing that anymore, because it brings a certain type of person in the door. Mm-hmm. And we're kind of back in that spot where, like, how do we find that happy medium? Because if you're surviving without it, you're probably not. You need something to kick you in the ass and get you moving.
Lead generation leads kids them in the door, then you get to teach them what's really going to make them stick.
100%. But even then, like, how you word that on the front end makes a huge difference too, right? Mm-hmm. Being clear about, like, yes, this is a kickstart, but it's a kickstart to a longer journey for you, not just a kickstart and then leave it at that.
You didn't plan on just going back to the way you were before, right?
100%. Yeah.
That's what we do with our operation transformation. We're consistently trying to get people on the wagon and keep them on the wagon. So we try and do, we try and get people doing it, multiple times throughout the year to basically keep them, form habits to where they don't need it
recognizing
anymore.
This is a lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yep. You have to have some type of challenge, right?
And they have to organically come to that on their own, right? You can tell them that all you want, but they have to feel it on their own, and they have to feel it from their own actions day in and day out.
I also don't think it's bad to play on people's like competitive nature, to give them like some kind of time frame that it's like
we're all going to work a little harder if everybody decided, overnight we're all training and someone said, like, all right, first person to do this, everybody's going to find some extra gas in the tank.
For sure.
Every time.
Yeah. Well, you talk about defined in time frame, right? Like delivering value for people. We talked about, like, Alex Hormozy's an awesome mindset guy. I've always been into his content, and he talks about, like, this value equation of being able to take and increase people's perceived likelihood of achievement and their dream outcome coming to life, and then removing that, like, time delay, the effort, the sacrifice behind those things. So that's like our marketing goal as we zero back in on, like, okay, what's going to allow us to help people get in the door? We need to increase something that's valuable. It's not overwhelming. It's not all or nothing. It does have a defined in time frame. It does meet you where you're at. It allows you to live, but it also is something that can become sustainable for you. But you don't have to focus on losing the 50 pounds. Like, let's just get the first 5 off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's getting people into your culture, essentially, because once you're in the culture, then you can slowly, basically.
It takes its course. Like, the natural, tendency of that culture will weed out the people that it needs to, and it'll obviously boost the people that were looking for that. You know what I mean? They were just needing that guiding hand. And so when we talked about just like what was life like after sports, it's like you get to create that environment that you were hoping for and looking for the day after sports was done.
Yeah.
And
that's a big identity crisis for people. Like, you go from that community, that environment, and your brothers or sisters or the people that you ride or die with, and then you have nothing.
Dude, purpose on top of it.
Dude,
right?
So much. And to be able to create that community for people who also think like-minded, like, I'm not here to get a 6-pack. And if you are, great, we can figure out a way to make that happen. But, like, if you want to kick ass into your 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and you want to live a fulfilled life, it starts when you're 20, when you're 30, when you're 40, and just getting something moving in the right direction. So got to find a way to get people to just move the needle. And once you get it moving, it's all about momentum. So I talk to people about momentum a lot, and it's either building or it's waning, you know,
at all times. Right. You you know, you have a lot of value to bring, Nick, and there's no doubt that you're going to build a strong community and continue to. If we were to be sitting down, this is a question that seems cheesy that I feel like that we probably may have asked 100 times. We've actually never asked it. And that is just, if we're sitting down here in 3 years from now, just what are we going to be talking about? That's what I'd ask you.
It's a great question. And it's a question my wife and I have talked about a lot, is like, what is the next step for us? You know, at one point our vision was to have multiple locations and to be able to use that as a method of expanding our reach. But I think it's really generalized right now. And because of a lot of the change and the challenges that we've faced over the last 3 years, I mean, one of our team members that's been an OG with us, he's like, you realize we've been in 3 facilities in the last 3 years. Every January we've been in a different spot. And so I think we're at a point right now where we're craving some stability and some consistency, and opening another facility doesn't feel like that's a smart move even in the next 3 years. So really right now it's like, how do we really impact the local community, the greater Overland Park, Johnson County, KC Metro area? How do we get in with people like you guys who have a strong foothold and footprint in the fitness industry, in the wellness space? How do we create relationships? How do we build value in what we do? How do we get into corporate fitness? How do we get on the online? How do we maximize the capacity of our studio and find other like-minded people to be able to build a community? So I think, you know, it'd be easy to sit here and be like, I want 3 more locations and I want 5,000 clients. A lot of it's really built on whatever opportunity creates the most impact for us and the most stability, I think, is where we're going to lean in, at least where I'm at this point. I
love it, man. I can speak for Kyle just because I know him so well, but we're very impressed.
Don't speak for me.
We're very impressed with, dude, your mindset and the way that you're looking at things. And, you know, if you were on our team and talking, you know, somebody that worked for us and said that this is what they were doing, et cetera, and this is their mindset, it's just, dude, you know, I have no doubt that you'll get where you want to go, and you're putting the right things first. And
I appreciate that.
I'm super happy for you.
I think it's, it's very easy to tell that, you know, when you're talking to a guy who's focused on winning, you know, and being the best at what they're doing and not just kind of going through the motions. And
dude,
so you know, it's been cool to hear your story, man.
People over profits, impact, you know, over locations and ego. You know what I mean? So
100%.
Keep doing what you're doing, man. We're super happy for you. We do ask a question that seems to be completely out of alignment with our conversation at this point, but that is,
no, it's good. It's good. It's right in line with the conversation.
I mean, dude, you're a Kansas boy, born and raised. We have some phenomenal barbecue here in Kansas City.
Jefferson, Kansas? Is that where you said?
So I was born in Dodge City.
Dodge City.
And then I
affectionately called Dodge Shitty when I lived in.
People say get the fuck out of Dodge for a reason, man. Yeah. And spent a year outside of Wichita, and then outside of Topeka area. I guess I'd call it like Lake Perry, Jefferson West High School.
But this man is Kansas through and through.
But 100%, man. I've spent time in every corner except the north, central, northwest. So
which there's nothing up there. So
right, it's farmland and cattle. Yeah. You know what I mean.
So we ask, what's the best barbecue in Kansas City? If you have to basically, you know, you have all the family that comes in town and so forth. It's like, all right, we're going to bring you to one spot. Where's your spot?
It's down to 2. It's got to, I mean, you can't go wrong with KC Joe's. Like it's an OG. It's a simple one. I feel like that's a quicker experience. So it depends on what we're doing, right? If it's like we want a sit down restaurant experience, I'm going to Q39 for sure.
Dude, you know what I found out about Q39 last night?
What's that?
I had no idea. I knew that they like had done, you know, competitions and this and that, but the owner of Q39 went to the
RIP.
Oh yeah, but he went to the Culinary Institute.
Wow.
And so he got done with, you know, that, and he was, you know, working in these high-end restaurants. And he just saw that barbecue was a huge deal here. He just, like, his job brought him to, I think, a hotel that had a nice restaurant in Kansas City. And that's where he was like the executive chef. And he started just competing on the weekends out of pure passion for cooking and the barbecue stuff around here. He started winning everything. And so he started stacking all the cash from that and said, you know what, I'm just going to keep competing and taking the money and putting it towards opening my own barbecue restaurant. And that's how Q39 began. Pretty crazy.
I did not know that story.
Yeah.
Didn't either.
Found that out on the Travel Channel. Straight up.
Places.
Yeah. The Travel Channel had him on there and told his story with
they're right across the street from where we're at now. And I think I don't know if I've been over there once in the last like 4 months or whatever, 3 months that we've been there. So
yeah, from a business standpoint, I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, right across the way from us. I might have to stop by there sometime the next week. Got me thinking about it.
Everything about it, everything that makes good. So Great talking to you, Nick.
Really thank you for coming on, man.
Yeah,
Really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah,
it's been great catching up with you guys and getting to know you better and sharing our story. And thankful for the opportunity. Like I said, a big part of what we're focused on right now is just letting people know we exist and giving them the opportunity for us to be able to help meet them where they're at. And I couldn't be more grateful for the chance to come.
Tell people where they can find you guys.
Yeah, so you can find us on Instagram or Facebook at Evexia KC. It's EVEXIAKC. Website's the same, evexiakc.com. Reminder that's wellness in Greek. And the ties go back to just the personal stuff we have. But we're at college in Antioch in Overland Park.
Great location.
Yeah. If someone wanted to get started with you guys or just like check you out, what would like a drop in or a first class look like for you guys?
Yeah, so we go through different periods of time where we offer like a 7-day group training trial where we give people 3 group sessions to pop in, come in and hit some strength training, some conditioning, some mobility, hybrid work, whatever it might be. But most times what we'll do is offer a free strategy session. You go to our website, you can find that on our link tree on all the social channels, but you can book a time for a discovery call there. So if you're kind of like, no, check it out, jump on the phone for 10 minutes, see if it's a good fit. And if it is, then great, we'll set up a time to meet, but you can also schedule that there too.
Cool, man.
Very cool, man. Thank you again for coming.
Yeah,
appreciate
grateful fellas. Appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.